Today we're going to be delving into the unsettling case of Joanne Chambers, a dedicated first grade teacher whose life took a terrifying turn when she began receiving death threats from an unknown stalker. Through advanced forensic techniques, including DNA testing, investigators meticulously pieced together the evidence. The breakthrough came with a surprising twist that no one saw coming. Welcome to another true crime story time, where I tell you one true crime case that was solved using forensic science, all while doing, that's right, my makeup. I hope everyone had a great 4th of July weekend. I'm so happy to be back. Hi newbies. If you are new to this channel, we are very casual over here, so keep it casual, keep it cute. The comment section is a privilege. Don't fuck it up. Now let's get into today's case. I'm on a swivel stool today, y'all, so we gonna be twisting and turning, girl. This all takes place in the fall of 1993 at the Cobalt Learning Center, a public school located in the Poconos Mountain of eastern Pennsylvania, where 41-year-old Joanne Chambers worked as a first grade reading teacher. That forehead gotta be got, cause girl, we shining over here. She was married and lived in Carbondale with her husband and 10-year-old son. Now, Joanne was described as a very unconventional teacher with a relaxed teaching style. She was highly experienced. She had been teaching for over 8 years. Children seemed to love her, and the parents really liked her as well. Joanne was creative and fun. She did entertaining things like dress up pillars to look like palm trees. She was a very interactive sort of teacher. She really wanted to get the children involved in her teachings. It was said that she would oftentimes end each class with encouraging words for her students, like you are wonderful and beautiful, and you guys make me so happy, and you're smart. With a teacher like that, how could a child not be productive and creative and successful? Joanne was very well respected amongst her colleagues and very well liked in her community. So you can imagine how shocking it was when the principal of Cobalt began receiving letters from an anonymous sender depicting Joanne in a very poor light. The letters called Joanne the word, the B word. I can't cuss on here, you guys. I'm taking a step back from cursing, all except for the F-bomb in the beginning of my videos. So the letters claimed that Joanne smoked marijuana. It criticized her for wearing jeans at school and her unconventional teaching style. Joanne was not like other teachers. She would oftentimes show up in Mickey Mouse t-shirts and jeans, and this was something that could be perceived as unprofessional. They also criticized her for organizing a faculty water fight. This woman sounds cool. I'm sorry, Joanne sounds like the coolest teacher in the world. I was homeschooled, you guys, so I've dreamed of going to regular school and having teachers and, proms and to get braces like a regular kid. So the letters went on and on and on, criticizing Joanne and the way she did things at school, but it didn't stop there. The letters called Joanne the B word and accused her of child, the word. You guys, I want to say the word. I go back and forth. I know that YouTube doesn't like us to say the words, and if I say the words, I'm taking a huge chance of getting, my videos tagged or demonetized or something. So I don't want to do that, but I also feel like the words should be used with a warning. So here's your warning. And I'm just gonna say it, but yeah, I wish YouTube wouldn't do that so much, because honestly, it really does take away from the severity of the act itself. I mean, whoever was sending these letters really had it out for Joanne. The anonymous letters were sent to all of Joanne's colleagues as well. Each of the teachers began receiving these nasty letters about Joanne in their mailboxes in the faculty lounge. And it wasn't long before Joanne herself began receiving letters at her home. I would not know what to do if something like this happened. But the letters she would receive were a lot more intense. They were threatening in nature. The letters would say things like, "I can get you in one try. No one would ever prove it. They may not think so, but I'm smarter than you are. You stupid bitch. Who is this person? Like, who is this person? One letter even threatened to drag her into the woods and torture her to death. I mean, at this point, like, this is criminal behavior. We need to call the police. And that's exactly what Joanne did. Armed with the letters, Joanne reported the harassment to police. And police began an investigation into her case. Joanne was very well liked for the most part, and she had no known enemies. Everyone loved her, so who could have done this? Like, who would hate her this much to send the letters? She must have slept with somebody's man or something. Cause I don't know nobody that's gonna be sending letters like that and you ain't at least slept with their man. Look, she did something. To find out what was going on, investigators brought in a forensic handwriting expert to examine the letters. Now, the letters had been typed on a typewriter, not handwritten, so I don't know why they brought in this, I think they're called calligraphers. I don't know why they would bring them in. And right away, they found a very interesting clue. In one of the letters, the anonymous sender referred to the superintendent as Colonel Clink, which, as I understand it, was a character from an old TV series. Investigators questioned the other teachers at the school since a lot of the activity had to do with what was going on in the school. They found out that one of the teachers in specific had been overheard referencing the superintendent using that name. This teacher's name was Paula Norwalkie. She had started working for the district in 1975 and had been a teacher for the last 18 years. She was known to be a much stricter teacher than Joanne. She had a very traditional teaching style. It was very formal, but she was also well respected in the community and amongst her colleagues. When investigators spoke with Paula, she appeared very caught off guard and shocked by the allegations, and she denied having anything to do with the letters. The letters would continue for over the span of about 18 months. One letter accused Joanne of having a bottle of Jack Daniels in her desk. When Joanne went to check her desk, she did find a bottle of Jack Daniels. She also found some of her personal items missing as well. She removed the bottle of Jack Daniels from the desk and she went to report it to police. Joanne complained that some of her personal items were also missing from the desk. Then things escalated to something rather unpleasant. As if things couldn't get worse, they did. According to Joanne, she took her place at her desk one morning. When she sat down, she reached underneath her chair to adjust her dress. When she pulled her hand out, her hand was covered in feces. Yeah. That right there would have been enough to send me into a mental spiral. Like, who is playing with the poo-poo? We need to find this out, because this is... And I mean, she was mortified, to say the least. She received another letter the following day that warned her of poisoning. It said something along the lines of, I had multiple chances to slip poison into your coffee mug today. This person is really playing, ain't they? They playing. Investigators needed help, so they sent the letters to the FBI lab in Quantico. The good old Quantico FBI coming in again. This is our second case in a row that they've come and stepped in. So exciting. I don't know, I'm a dork and geek for this kind of stuff. It was the FBI lab in Quantico, Virginia, and they were able to get some partial prints from the envelopes. Oh, girl, did I put that too high? I feel like I need 3 hands when I'm putting on my brows. I don't know why. Like, I need a hand to hold the mirror, I need a hand to hold my eyebrow, and I need a hand to draw it on. Or maybe I just don't know how to apply brows. That could be it too. In the meantime, investigators are analyzing security camera footage of the school. They are watching Joanne's classroom and they see 3 teachers inside of her classroom around Joanne's desk. At some point, all the teachers exit the classroom before one teacher returns to grab Joanne's mug. This teacher was none other than, you guessed it, Paula Norwalkie. Girl, it's not looking good, Paula. Over the course of the next couple of days, the photo that Joanne had reported stolen from her desk turned up. Joanne's head had been cut out of the picture and photocopied onto pornographic images. Posters were made of those pornographic images and plastered throughout the community. They were posted throughout the school. They were posted on the doors to local stores and shops, left on people's cars. They were also mailed to all of the students' parents, which was extremely embarrassing, and I'm sure like not a good look whatsoever for Joanne. You can just tell it's fake, so I don't know why anybody would believe it. According to Joanne, there were phone calls made to the parents of her students accusing her of being a lesbian and having AIDS, which so uneducated and ignorant, but this was a different time period, so I digress. The letters also said she shouldn't be a teacher because of this. There's no way in today's society that you would find anything like this going on, because we are just so far advanced, and it's called evolution, I guess. The lack of scientific evidence and motive paired with the outlandish claims that Joanne had been making of this harassment led investigators to question her story. They were like, poop under your desk, you're a lesbian and you got AIDS, so you shouldn't be teaching children. Wait, what? And you have these pornographic images? Like, this is a lot. Why is this person doing this to you? Where is this coming from? Yeah, they were starting to question things a little bit. So they gave her a lie detector test. Paula also volunteered to take the lie detector test, seeing it as her opportunity to kind of, prove her innocence. Both tests came back, but only one of them showed deception. Paula Noraki failed her lie detector test. It's not looking too good, Paula. Investigators informed Paula that she had failed their test and that she was now their prime suspect in the case. Paula could not believe it, and she continued to maintain her innocence. She expressed to law enforcement how ridiculous she thought the whole thing was, that there was no way that she could have anything to do with it, and that they were highly mistaken, and that she wanted someone else to come in and investigate further because she just felt like they weren't doing anything. She told police, if I'm doing it, I don't know I'm doing it, and you wouldn't be able to convince me that I was the one doing it. Which really rubbed officers the wrong way. They were like, what is that supposed to mean? We would never be able to prove to you or convince you that it was you. Like, are you trying to say we just don't have the evidence? Later on, Joanne explained that the reason why she said it that way was to just make a point that she was not the one doing it, because if she was doing it, she would know that she was doing it, and there was no way that she was doing it. That was her point, but I guess they kind of like, it just came off the wrong way. When asked why she had taken Joanne's coffee cup from the desk that day, she said she took it because Joanne asked her to go back and grab it for her. This is a sticky situation. I don't know who telling who what and who doing what over here. A second look at the videotapes did show that both Paula and Joanne was standing at the desk and had left the classroom together before Paula returned to grab the cup. Investigators asked to search Paula's home. She was very cooperative and agreed. They took an old typewriter she had and all of the papers and envelopes they could find. They compared the letters to the typewriter taken from Paula's home. They found that they did not match. The typewriter used to type the nasty messages was not the typewriter found in Paula's home. The envelopes also did not match the ones used by the anonymous sender. But investigators had their sights set on Paula. They theorized that Paula was jealous of Joanne's happy-go-lucky, unconventional teaching style, as she was the more strict teacher, and she had been there for, part of the district for at least over 18 years, and Joanne was a newer teacher, yet she was getting all of this attention from her classroom and from the parents. They felt like Joanne's growth and popularity was not received well by Paula. She was envious and angry and wanted to ruin Joanne's reputation. That's what they thought, at least. I was trying to create that little button nose thing, but I don't really think I need a button nose. Look, it's a button nose. Like, I'm not a doll. The letters became more threatening and continued throughout the year. For Joanne's safety, she was placed in like a witness protection program. I don't know what you would call it. But for her safety, she was transferred to a different school. Everything seemed fine at first, but then the same thing happened. The threatening messages started back up again. After a couple months of working at the other school, a package would be left at the front door of the school for Joanne. The package was a box wrapped in pink wrapping paper, and it was addressed to Joanne. When Joanne opened the box, she found a doll inside that was dressed like her, like almost identical to the outfit she would normally wear to school. The doll's hair was chopped off, but styled in the same way that Joanne had now had her hair. The doll had its throat slit and there was red paint all over it that mimicked blood. It was like straight out of a horror film. Somebody is sick. Somebody is real sick. I don't do dolls. I don't do dolls and I don't do clowns. Those are two things that horror, like scary wise, I am not about. Joanne told investigators that she felt helpless. She was in fear for her life. She even told her husband once to like prepare for if she would be gone. I mean, can you imagine that? She claimed that in November of 1994, was just a year after everything happened at the other school and that she's transferred. She had been driving on the highway going back home from work, and there was a motorist that was tailgating her. So she tried to avoid the motorist, but the motorist swerved around and tried to run her off the road. She said that she pulled off to the shoulder of the road, and as the other car passed, she was able to get a good look at the driver. And guess who she claimed the driver was? Paula Noraki. That's right. Paula was back at it. She had already transferred. Paula had followed her, harassing her again. This was all the information that police needed, and they arrested Paula Noraki and charged her with over 100 counts, including stalking, harassment, terrorist threats, reckless endangerment of a life. It was over 100 counts. They really tried to get her on everything. They blamed Paula for the entire hate campaign. Paula's husband, Leonard, who worked as an inspector for the Department of Environmental Protection, was shocked to learn of his wife's arrest in the newspaper the following day. He described the experience as being the subject of a witch hunt fueled by overeager investigators and journalists. He just felt like they had it out for Paula from the jump, and that they were not going to let this go, and that they were unfairly charging her and doing this. But actually, if you look at it, all the circumstantial evidence did point towards Paula. Like, who else would it be? After Paula's arrest, the letter and stalking stopped. Paula pleaded with the prosecution's investigators that she had nothing to do with the harassment of Joanne Chambers. She said it was a mistake, but they didn't believe her. Although Paula continued to maintain her innocence, her friends and colleagues started to ignore her and just took a step back from her, because they all really felt like she may have done it. I always try to put on eyeshadow primer, and when I do, I don't know why, but it never turns out the way. It's always splotchy still. I mean, they just didn't trust her anymore, you know? So how could you be friends with someone you don't trust? The parent of one of the students even requested to have their son removed from Joanne's classroom. So now she was not just losing friends and colleagues, but she was also losing students, which is not good. I mean, that was her moneymaker. She hired an attorney and private investigator to help her prove her innocence. Now, the private investigator she hired was a former state police trooper, and he even had his doubts after looking at Paula's files. He said that he initially thought to himself that she most likely had done it just based off of all of the circumstantial evidence. The evidence stacked against her was very incriminating. Paula's investigator was finally able to obtain the results from the partial prints found on the envelopes mailed to Joanne, and the results were negative. The prints did not match Paula Noraki. The defense team requested for forensic scientists to test for DNA on the envelope's flap and the stamps. The prosecution agreed, but only under the circumstances that the defense fully disclosed their findings regardless of what the outcome was. That meant that if Paula's DNA was found on the envelopes, then Paula would be incriminating herself. Fully understanding the consequences of this, Paula still decided to go through with it and do the test. She paid $7,000 for the testing fee, as it wasn't free to her. It was a private testing fee. It wasn't something ordered by the court. So she actually had to put up the money for it. Forensic scientists collected Paula and her husband's DNA along with the evidence, and they sent it to the forensics lab for testing. Dude, my brushes, y'all, I'm telling y'all, I really need new brushes. Like, we're down, not girl. I've been using the same one for like 10 years. At the forensics lab, experts first exposed the stamps on the letters to steam. Then they gently peeled off the stamps. Next, they swabbed the stamps and envelope flaps for epithelial cells. According to Google, epithelial cells are types of cells that covers the inside and outside of the surface of your body. They are found on your skin, blood vessels, and organs, including your urinary tract. Forensic scientists got a hit. Ooh, I don't like this. But the samples were too small. They didn't have enough cells to get a good test. So they had to use a different method called the polymerase chain reaction, also known as PCR. Do you guys see that? Yeah, what? Basically, it clones the cells to make enough for testing. They compared the DNA extracted from the stamps and envelopes flaps to Paula Noraki's and her husband's DNA, and the results came back negative for both Paula and her husband. Their DNA did not match the genetic profile of the person who had licked the stamps and sent those letters. So if it wasn't Paula or her husband, then who was it? Now the defense had scientific evidence to prove Paula Noraki's innocence, but that wasn't enough. They were now invested into the case, and they wanted to find out who had done this. Well, there was only one other person who knew all about the letters and the harassment. Investigators had to consider the most unlikely suspect. Was it possible that Joanne Chambers, the victim, had been victimizing herself? The defense investigator spoke with law enforcement in Carbondale, the town over, and they gave him some damning information. They said that Joanne was always reporting mysterious burglaries and house fires and all sorts of things that somehow she was always the victim of. Girl, don't tell me this lady is sending letters to herself and putting poo under her own desk. I can't believe it. But this was only circumstantial evidence. It only showed that Joanne had a history of reporting incidents in which she was the victim of. It didn't show that she had done any of it. They needed her DNA, but they didn't have a warrant, so the defense investigator actually had to go over to her home when she wasn't around and dig through her trash. If you guys don't know, once you put trash at the edge of the road or at the end of the curb, the trash now becomes public property. So the defense investigator looked through her trash and he found a plastic straw, some used tissue paper, and a Q-tip. I don't know what that was. That just scared me. My bathroom door just opened on its own. And all items that quite possibly may contain DNA. Everything was collected and sent to the forensics lab for testing. The results came back and they found two different types of DNA profiles. One of the profiles matched the DNA found on the stamps and envelope flaps, and the other did not. Now, Joanne was asked to give a sample of her DNA, and she did fully cooperate with investigators and volunteered a sample. She gave them a blood sample. Forensic experts compared Joanne's DNA to the DNA found on the letters. The results came back and they matched. Can you believe it? Despite the evidence, the prosecution refused to drop the charges against Paula Noraki. They were gung-ho on nailing her for this crime. I mean, how much more evidence do you need to exonerate this poor woman? Like, Jesus Christ. During the trial, the prosecution presented all of the circumstantial evidence against Paula, and the defense countered with all of the scientific evidence proving Paula's innocence. When questioned how her DNA could have possibly got on those letters, Joanne had a perfectly reasonable explanation, or so she thought. She testified that during her meeting with investigators, they had left the evidence out on the table and left her alone in the room with it at some point. Because of this, she was curious and she went through the letters, and that's when one of the stamps had fell off. She got super nervous and embarrassed because she didn't want them to know what she had been doing in the room, which was basically tampering with evidence, if that's true. And so she licked the stamp and tried to reapply it to the envelopes. However, when that didn't work, she pulled out a glue stick that she carried with her in her purse and she re-adhered the stamp. Girl, that is, listen, y'all, that is so far-fetched. Do I believe that this woman had a glue stick in her purse? She was a teacher, most likely. I don't doubt that. But just like, really? The prosecution and the investigators that was working this case and going so hard on Paula, they didn't even realize that they had incriminated themselves. Leaving the evidence out in public like that is shameful, to say the least. I mean, you guys, that's like a really stupid mistake. Now, although Joanne gave her so-called reasonable explanation for why all of this happened, the jury was not buying it. The defense brought in the forensic expert who testified that they hadn't found any glue on the envelopes. Funny enough, this forensic expert was a stamp collector. So she knew all about stamps, and she also could testify to the fact that whatever they use on the back of a stamp to adhere it to the envelopes is a very different type of adhesives. That was just not possible, and she didn't find any of that type of adhesive on the envelope or on the stamps. I mean, she was caught. She was busted. This is like so embarrassing. The trial continued for 5 days. The jury deliberated, and after just 2 hours, they came back with a not guilty verdict. Joanne continued to deny her involvement in the entire debacle. Like, we know that you were the conspirator. Just give it a rest, girl. We know it was you. She left the courtroom in a huff. She was so angry. Everyone was ignoring her and looking down on her. And they all apologized to Paula and, told her how sorry they were and how bad they felt that this had happened to her. The crazy thing is that Paula had spent over $100,000 in court fees and investigative fees just to prove her innocence. I think that they just probably couldn't fathom that someone would make all of that up and do all of that. And I also think that at that point they had invested so much money, so much of police funding, so many tax dollars, and had went into the funding of this entire thing, that I think that they didn't want to let it go. The investigators were foolish, girl. They was foolish. They was out here doing some foolery, some buffoonery. It sucks, they had decided they needed to nail somebody. They decided it was going to be Paula. They went after her. They were so gung-ho. I think the saddest thing is that Joanne never had to own up to what she had done. So that's the sickest part of this case. Unfortunately, that is where this story ends. Nothing has been done or updated about the case so far. Joanne never received any sort of punishment for what she had done. Thanks to forensic science and some great private detective work, Paula Norwacki was acquitted of the charges. She was set free to live her life, but she was now $100,000 in debt. Paula did say that she planned on going after Joanne for that money because, she spent a lot of money. What did you guys think about this case and my makeup look? Please let me know in the comments down below. If you like videos like these, you can check out some of my other episodes. I'll leave them linked on the screen right here. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. Please share because it really helps me out. And I'll see you guys next time with another true crime story time. Bye.